Okay. Greg, this doesn't seem to be powering up.
You have to hold it down.
Hold it down with the microphone.
Got it? Testing.
Hello, Katie.
Good afternoon.
There we go. Yep, we got you. And we haven't started the meeting yet. We'll do that here in just a second.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. I've got 1 o'clock and everything's on.
Yep. $1,500 on the 27th of January, 2020.
If you could hold the mic, sir.
No.
There you go. Thank you.
1 o'clock, January 27, 2021. Let's call this meeting to order. And Kathy, I'm expecting you taking note of everybody that's here. We're all here. And the first thing we have on business today is to swear in our new commissioner, Commissioner Richard Schwartz. Let me get my paperwork here. Oh, I don't have that paperwork. Maybe it's here. Hold on. We have electronic stuff.
Yes, it should be in your packet. Otherwise,
Okay.
and sir, again,
Stand, please.
if you could use the mic and turn it up. Thank you.
Is it on?
It is on, yes.
Please repeat after me. I, Richard Schwartz,
I, Richard Schwartz,
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully the duties of the office of Princeton Public Utilities Commissioner
and to discharge faithfully the duties of office of Princeton Public Utilities Commissioner and the
of the City of Princeton, Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. Keith.
Next on the agenda is I would like to welcome the new city liaison, Jules Zimmer. Jules, welcome to our little group. Looking forward to having you participate in our conversations and continue to find ways for everybody to work together for the betterment of the community. So I appreciate you joining in.
Thank you, and congratulations to Mr. Schwartz there. Thank you. I appreciate your service, and I know your dedication. That's what the council saw and chose you to serve the next 3 years. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for having me here. And I guess what I can say is I just look forward to
I'm trying to figure out.
just
Sorry, I was trying to turn it down.
Oh, thank you for that.
That's all right. Just a good partnership with the PUC and look forward to a good working relationship. We all serve the same people in our community. And, I just want to see what's best for them. So thank you.
Well, as my role as commissioner chair at this point, I'd like to make an official welcome from the board. I'm glad to have you here, and we look forward to working with you in a very cooperative kind of fashion for the rest of this year.
Thank you.
Election of officers.
Yes, sir. Beginning of each year, we do elect a chairman and appoint a commission secretary. So this being the first meeting of the year, that position needs to be filled. And typically, somebody from the commission would make a recommendation and have a discussion as to what the commission chooses its leadership for the next year.
Any volunteers? I'll make a motion.
The way I understand it, we open motions for nominations. Close the motions for nominations, then take a vote on the nominations.
Correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to nominate Mr. Hanson as the chair.
I will second that.
So I've been hornswoggled once again this year.
I didn't want any time for discussion.
I guess I'll give you my thanks for your support, guys.
Yeah, Greg, technically you need to call it to see if there are any other nominations.
Are there any other nominees? Geez, I thought I was gonna have one for sure. If there's any discussion about that, it would be, if anybody wants to complain, like, this is your time, your opportunity. Nobody's saying anything. All those, since we have a motion and a second,
You need to hereby close the nominations.
to close the nomination.
Yeah. that's all.
Hereby, the nominations are closed. Then a motion and a second to force me to continue to carry around the second gavel. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Nay. Oh, 2-1. Motion is carried.
Use that.
It's official. Moving along. Secretary appointment.
So that is another appointment that is made by the commission at the beginning of each year. Kathy Ulmer has been our secretary for a while. And so the commission would just need to decide whether they would like her to continue in that role or there's some other person that you would like to fulfill that those duties.
If there's a motion required, I would like to make a motion that we have to continue to have Kathy Oakley as our commission secretary. Done a great job.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. You're stuck again.
Do you enjoy it, Kathy? Do you enjoy it? Okay, that's a win-win.
The vice chair.
As far as I know, we've never had one.
Just an aside, Keith, there's someone looking over your shoulder.
Yes.
Do you want to make introductions?
Oh, yeah, this is Katie Brett from the Minnesota Rural Water Association. She will be giving a presentation on our rural protection plan.
Great. Nice to see you, Katie.
Nice to see you, everyone. Thanks for the invite.
We'll be speaking to you later, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Approval of the agenda is up next for this current agenda. So moved. All second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Approval of minutes. There are two sections of minutes here that need to be approved. If anybody have any concerns about the regular commission minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
And this motion is just for the December 16th.
I'm sorry,
Your motion is just for the December 16th minutes?
I didn't make a motion. I was waiting for
Oh,
someone to make it. Or we can entertain a motion to accept them both at the same time.
Yeah. I do need to point out that the work study session meeting minutes from January 13th lists Commissioner Rick Schwartz as present via Zoom. That was not correct. He was here in person. So we will want to make that change to the minutes.
Right, correct. Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from both sessions with making that change. Is there a second?
From December 16th and January 13th.
Oh, was it on the 16th as well?
Well, December 16th, he was the commissioner.
Yeah, the 16th has been listed as present. It was just the January 13th one that we listed as.
I was present, not so.
Yeah.
Again, you're asking to approve December 16th and January 13th.
Yeah, with the change to the 13th.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, the motion is carried through. Okay. Next is our opportunity for some public comment. You want to make some public statements at this point? Hearing none, then move to approval of official depositories.
Mr. Chair, I just want to mention for the record that I had not received any, I was not contacted by anyone asking to participate in the public forum.
Okay. Very good. Discussion of the depositories, banks listed as our depositories for the year for all of our financial transactions. Are there any questions about that on resolution 21.1?
Yeah, I would just mention that this is, again, it's just an annual thing that we do each year, so there's not any difference on this resolution from last year's resolution, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's a big change. So this is, again, just to make sure that this is an official record of for depositories.
And we currently are using everyone in some fashion.
Yeah.
It's good that it's split up. I would make a motion to accept resolution 20-01.
I'm sorry, just to make a correction, the actual resolution in front of you should say resolution 21-01. The first two digits are always the year.
All clear?
I have it on screen as 20-01.
Correct, and I would like to have that approved as corrected to the 21-01. We already have a 20-01 from last year, so I don't want to have some confusion in the record.
So it's a typo.
Correct.
That shows 21. So
In the agenda, it lists it correctly. Oh, in the actual pack, it is. There is a typo.
It's on both here and
okay,
Yeah,
on the agenda, it's listed as 21.
yeah.
But on the document, it's listed as 20. So we'll,
got it.
Kathy will make the appropriate changes there.
So I'll update that to accept 21-01.
Okay. And I'll second that. So we're all on the same page.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of official newspaper. This is again is one of those annuals. We do year after year.
Correct.
This also has 20-02 on it.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that we want to make the change to make that 2102.
Correct.
Okay, so the official newspaper will be resolved in resolution 2102. I'll make a motion to adopt that resolution 21-02.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. 3-0. Certification of accounts payable. Go through those.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like some clarification.
Please.
Number 6, inventory, 5,700. Can you just not item by item briefly explain what the bulk of that is?
Kathy, do you remember the 5750?
Go to supplies ordinarily, electrical equipment, if I'm not mistaken.
So is it replacing what we have in stock that's just used during that time period? Or the
It
one
goes into
before?
inventory and then, throughout the year, they do it, they'll come out. And get expense at that time.
Okay. And that's Is that a normal amount monthly, or is it up and down periods?
That is not, they order just as they need,
Yeah.
you know, as this price window down, the order, you know, some, not.
All right.
They put budget, you know, because I go through bills, I've noticed that, you know, 1 month they're a couple thousand and then they're 5,700. So they.
Restocking.
Okay. Anything else?
Item 15, 4128. Help me understand that.
We are required under Minnesota statute to pay a water fee to the DNR, right? Department of Health. It's based on your number of connections, and the Department of Health allows us to pay that quarter. It's, I want to say it's like $9.76 per year.
No, per connection.
Per connection per year. Yeah. So that is 1/4 of the total amount that we are required to pay annually.
Okay.
And all water utilities have to pay that.
Understood. Item 18 for 6,471. Help me understand that.
That is, Power Manager is our billing and inventory and payroll software. And so we do pay an annual support fee for that. We have an individual that we consult with whenever we need work done, or Power Manager, whether it's running, you know, doing some customized reports, or you know, making sure that everything is processed properly. So it is software support for Power Manager.
Is that, okay, so we're looking at December here, but is that just a now and then charge and support is needed, or is that an annual fee, or?
That is an annual fee, and then we basically get unlimited support at that point. It's they are on top for us, and they've been very responsive, and it's been a good relationship for us. But it is processed through the Nebraska Municipal Power Board. I'm not even sure why it's set up that way.
I believe that they are part, like, one of the software companies.
Oh,
The whole state of Nebraska is a public power district, so they had their fingers in this public stuff for a long time. Some of the software districts.
And my fellow commissioners, I sorry if I'm boring you on this, but I'm the junior. Item 21, 8,315 for inventory foam kits. What is that?
Jeremy, do you remember?
What is it?
It's from Russell.
For foam kits?
That was something, Ryan, basically it's, a foam they pour in the, back in the holes for the poles.
Oh, it's that's okay.
Versus the third. They've had really good luck with it in areas where, like sidewalks and stuff, where you might not want to, you're not able to dig it out, you can pull the pole out, put it back in, spray, mix this foam up, dump it in there, and then something, and it gets super hard, but you can crush it, get the pole back out, if you hit again or something like that. That was something that Brian had wanted to start using, so.
So does that look like an annual expense? Gary?
No, that was something we had started using last year. So I can't answer that. I don't know for sure if that's something we will continue or how much we would need of it. It's kind of an as you need it basis.
Okay.
The only other thing, it's not a question, but on 66, as we talked about with the credit card charges, you know, here again, we're at 1863, so I think the conversations we had on trying to get that was worthy. That's all I have.
Good. Anything else, Jim, yourself there? representation, then entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable.
So
I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Any last minute ones?
I just have one other discussion on that. When we were discussing approving the bills that were already paid, did we come up with a word change that didn't indicate that it was after?
Certification, that's what I was looking at.
Okay.
Certification of accounts payable.
So we're good with that then? With that would be-
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Reports and presentations. You're on.
Yeah, so first up for reports and presentations, we do have Katie Brett joining us from the Minnesota Water Association. This is in regards to our wellhead protection plan. To recap, the wellhead protection plan is something that we do every 10 years. This is our second round in addressing that. And we've been working with folks from the state as well as the Rural Water Association to update that plan. The information was presented at the October meeting. I did give you a hard copy for each of the commissioners, and Jules, you have one as well, regarding the amendments to the plan and has the Lisbon maps in it. So Katie, I did get that to them for you. And this meeting under the wellhead protection plan is a requirement. We have we put out a public notice. We do a public hearing on that activity. So that's why we're here today. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Katie, and she's going to give the commission a little bit of a summary of the program. Katie?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? I never know how far I have to project. So,
Yes, sounds good.
I'm good.
excellent. Thank you. So, like I said, my name's Katie from Minnesota Rural Water Association. We're a nonprofit organization, but we're contracted with Minnesota Department of Health. So we work side by side with the Minnesota Department of Health planners, and due to some recent retirements within MDH, I'm taking on a little bit of a bigger area, and you guys are stuck with me. But I will be your planner, your technical advisor throughout the rest of the process. So we were not going to pass you back and forth between technical advisors. I'll get to stick with you till the part 2 is complete of your wellhead protection plan. Keith, thank you very, very much for the accommodations. We have some restrictions put on by Department of Health of meeting in person at this time. So we're a little bit more restrictive on meetings. So I do appreciate everyone bearing with me. And also thank you for giving the hard copy of the page. So you should have about 6 pages. The document itself, the summary was 6 pages. And I'm just going to do a little recap of what wellhead protection is and where you are at in that process. Flag me down if you have questions, very informal, and I'm going to try to keep it short. I've seen your guys' agenda and you guys have a lot on your desk. So, but basically drinking water protection, my favorite saying was from Benjamin Franklin: when the well's dry, we know what water's worth. And we really want to try not to get to that point, and we hope we can put a value on water before we get to that point. But wellhead protection in itself is all about prevention. We want to make sure that we're preventing contaminants that can adversely affect human health from getting into our drinking water. Now, why so much emphasis on protection? it really boils down to economics as well. And if you think about it, an ounce of prevention is way cheaper than treatment. So that's why we really like to focus in on protection, and Minnesota state rules require protection as well. Now, what would happen if a contamination were to actually occur? You would be required to find an alternative source of water, investigate the source of contamination. There'd possibly be legal fees. I'd hate saying that, but possibly legal fees. You have to distribute information to the public. Then you have the cleanup, the remediation, and you might even, in the end, possibly have to drill a new well. So that's kind of the doom and gloom, if you will. I really like to focus on the doom and gloom, but with that comes large dollar amounts. Now, according to a report that MDH completed, the 26 community water supplies have spent over $44 million over a 12-year span to provide safe and adequate water supply following groundwater contamination. So that averaged out to about 1.669 million per community, and then averaging that out about 141,000 per year per community for those 26 communities that had groundwater contamination. So that was just the additional expense to them to provide an alternate water supply for residents. Now, on the flip side, MDH came up with numbers on what it costs for wellhead protection planning. Now, communities under 100, which your community is not under that, but they range from about $200 to $1,000 in the planning of wellhead protection. Communities over 50,000 is right between 20,000 and 60,000. So there's a big gap there, right? And there's different ways that we can do to help keep that cost down for you. But that cost is over a 2 to 4 year period. Now, this is all coming to us because of the 1986 and 1996 amendments to the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act. And then in 1989, Minnesota Groundwater Protection Act came into play. So it's coming from EPA, Minnesota State designs a program, and then public water supplier has to develop or be participant in developing their own wellhead action plan. So kind of a responsibility trickle down. The wellhead protection plan itself is in 2 parts. Part 1 is actually already complete. So you can consider your guys' self halfway done. And this is an amendment. You guys have already had the first plan and you've amended, and now we're amending the plan itself. So part 1, because there was no significant changes to delineation, there's some, but nothing major, MDH was able to take care of as what they call it easy. So that means you didn't have to hire a consultant to do any of the groundwork. MDH was able to take care of that. So that definitely helps budgets. And then part 2 is where we're now approaching. We're not there yet. We're just kind of in that transition period right now. Part 2 is where you'll want to put you have the option to write it in-house. That gets just as expensive and kind of headaches and pulling out hair, but it's a possibility. Otherwise, you can put an RFP out and hire a consultant to draft the second part. Again, I'm not just disappearing. I'll be alongside for the whole process to help guide the consultant, to maybe help gather data so that we don't have to have the consultant gather some of the stuff. Any way that I can help shave down some of that cost and time invested, I'll definitely be sticking by your side. So the rest of the time, I'm just going to briefly go over the part 1 that you have in front of you. This was sent out to your local government units surrounding your area. Part 1 gives you the delineation of your wellhead management area, your delineation of your drinking water supply management area. We'll call that a DWSMA because we have a lot of acronyms. And then your emergency response area. So if you have the packet in front of you, if you want to turn to the map that's called labeled Figure 1, that's where I'm going to explain and spend most of our time on. Okay. So Princeton Utility, you have 3 public wells that are primary wells. Your north well has its own DWSMA based off of well logs. It has its own area. And a DWSMA is the yellow boundary. Okay, so I'm going to work from inside out. You'll see the well, the north well numbered 578949, the yellow dot. Then we have the red boundary, this kind of a blob around that, right? That's our emergency response area. That is a 1-year time of travel underground to your well based off of your pumping and the geology. Okay, so if there were to be a spill or something underground, some sort of contaminant enter in, if it's within that area, it's a 1-year time of travel to reach your wells. That is not vertical though. That's not surface down. That's horizontal, groundwater moving horizontal underground. Okay. So then we're going to expand to that next area, the blue area. That's our wellhead protection area. That's a 10-year time of travel. So that 10-year time of travel is, again, horizontal movement underground. What is underground in the water at that, underground in that blue area takes up to 10 years to travel to your water source, to your well, based off of your current pumping rates. Then we snap out to that magical word DWSMA, drinking water supply management area. That is kind of like, I like to call it our buffer area. We are required to snap it out to the closest either political boundary, road, parcel, ditch, fence line. So that's how you get the more boxy shape of the DWSMA. All that same applies, all that concept applies to the southern DWSMA that has the 2 wells. But because those 2 wells are so close in proximity, we're able to create one DWSMA retrospect for both of those wells based off their pumping. Now, you'll also notice a couple different shading on the map, 2 different shades, like a red and a yellow. So the red is a highly vulnerable DWSMA. Okay, so highly vulnerable means we're lacking any clay layer for any natural protection. So it's more of a sandier soil, maybe just more disturbed soil in that area. But what that means is it's a higher risk for contaminants to get into your drinking water. The yellow is a moderately vulnerable, and that means we have some layers of clay, but it's not a nice, thick, confining layer. Now, in the plan, as we develop part 2, we're going to actually be separating those areas and looking at different potential contaminants for each classification. For example, highly vulnerable, we are concerned about septic systems. Moderately vulnerable, we are not deemed to be concerned about septic systems. So there's just different items that we would be looking for or inventorying based off of that vulnerability. So also in your southern DWSMA, you have a higher portion that is moderately vulnerable than the highly vulnerable. So those are 2 things. Again, it's really nice to have those clay layers, but sometimes they don't exist. We just have other things, a larger list of things that we need to be concerned about. As we develop part 2, We're going to also develop a large portion of that, developing a plan to protect from those potential contaminants. We don't have that list as part of the Part 2 process. But if you guys are curious to see what the difference is between your old plan and what's coming up into your new plan, that's actually on the side figure 2 with all the dashes. So the northern Dwisma, there was another well, but the well is no longer in use as a primary well. So we were able to take off a large portion of that. So you're not going to have to inventory that area. So they were able to redefine that. You'll also see that the wellhead management area, the solid blue line, is a little different. The reason why that changes is because as years go on, we collect more well data. The more well data we have, the finer tune we can do. The more fine tune our hydrologists can make their modeling. So the more the better to get it to a more precise wellhead protection area. And there wasn't as many changes to the southern Dwisma, but there was some additional changes as well to the wellhead management area, that 10-year time of travel. One other item I did point out for your Part 1 is recommendations that the hydrologists want us to consider when we're developing the Part 2. And there was only 2, which is really great. I've seen laundry lists. So it was a nice, manageable number. One of them that Gail is suggesting us to do is to help confirm those boundaries of the highly vulnerable area. It's nothing we're going to be able to fine tune for this plan, but she wants to prep it for the next adoption, your amendment of the amendment, so to speak, 10 years down the road. But it's always important to look at the picture. She just wants to make sure that, if at all possible down the road, if we can deem that highly vulnerable and find that there's more clay layer in there and deem it moderately, it's to an advantage to you guys as well, for less investment in going through the PCSI. And then a very common recommendation that we see is water quality monitoring. So they would like to see participation in collecting water samples for MDH, but we're very cautious about the water samples are analyzed by MDH at the cost of MDH, not at the cost of Princeton Utilities. What they're looking for is the partnership and just collecting the samples. And we'll make sure that when we go to Part 2 that it is worded appropriately so that you guys don't get stuck with that extra laboratory cost. So really, where we're at today is we're wrapping up that Part 1. This is just a public information meeting. Answer any questions on the Part 1. And then next steps, the wellhead managers who you appoint as wellhead managers. We had Keith on the list as our point contact. And then I believe also Scott Daniels was also on the list. We're going to be going through meeting with Department of Health through a phone conference, and what starts Part 2 is called a scoping 2 meeting, and we'll do a pre-meeting so that we get all their ducks in the row, and then we'll kick off Part 2 with RFPs. Did a lot of talking in a short time, as I usually do, or a long time. But is there any questions at all about the DWSMA, the drinking water supply management area, wellhead protection, what my role is for you?
Anybody here?
I guess I would just like to say that the process is going through very smoothly. The state's been really easy to work with and helping us navigate this process. They've got the experts on staff to kind of guide us to make sure that we do this in a proper way and also an efficient way. They're very cognizant, not wasting our time and making sure that we stay focused and getting what we need to get done to protect drinking water in this area. So I just want to say that they've been really good to work with. Appreciate it.
From looking at these things, I don't know, Katie, you can do this, but Scott, maybe you can jump in here. Where I see the wellheads located, the plume seems to go east to west. Is that accurate? Because there is a flow going that direction?
West to east, I believe.
Yeah, it goes towards the river.
Towards the river?
Yeah.
So in some cases, it's going towards the wellhead.
From the west, yeah.
Yep, it's coming from the west, moving towards your wells. You got that right on. It goes from the west to the east, flowing towards your wells. And that's not across the board on everybody's wellhead. That's specific to your wellhead. Great observation.
There's a question that if it started wellheads, if it's moving east, how do they get west before the wellhead?
Kind of, if there's, but this is really outlining an area that could impact our well, as I understand it. So somebody dumps their polyethylene waste over here in the west, and we pick it up on a sensor somehow. I don't know what all we're sensing for, but I'm assuming there's sensors somewhere out here. We sense it out here in the west. That would be a flag of sorts to say, okay, it's here. That means it's got a few months and it's going to hit our well. We need to be paying attention. Am I on the right page?
I think, and Scott, correct me if I say this wrong. What you're seeing is a level of risk. And so if anything happens within those circles, the red one is a 1-year time of travel, and blue is a 10-year time of travel. It gives us an idea of the risk assessment. So it's not that we're necessarily monitoring everything, doing any ongoing monitoring, but what happens is Scott actually reaches out to any of the landowners within those circles to make sure that we understand what they're doing or if there's any underground or anything like that. And the circles are meant for us to be able to focus our attention in the appropriate area. So what these are telling us is if you go from if you're at our well, you're more interested in the area west of that well because of how the water is transferring to the ground than east. And so it's a way for us to focus and make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. Make sure that we're protecting the investment we can. So that's what the circles are, is a risk assessment. Does that sound fair, Katie?
That sounds very fair. It's a tool in the toolbox to help you plan and prioritize. And you're going to be required to address what potential contaminants that are possibly out there. And a lot of it is education. The monitoring component of it is very minor. It's really about knowing what is out there, what exists out there that can potentially be of concern to you.
Thank you.
We also weigh heavily on the counties. We give the counties these tourismal maps. So if somebody would go to the county and ask for a conditional use permit, a land use permit, or anything like that, they're going to look and see if it's inside of our wellhead. So we work pretty close with the counties. The counties is watching our back.
Excellent.
So yeah, this really is a joint effort between multiple jurisdictions in protecting groundwater.
And that's going to be a very important component to identify in the part 2 is those partnerships. Because it's not going to be all on your shoulders. You're the responsible individuals for the plan, but we're going to partner with other entities to accomplish it. So you don't have to do it all. We want to make sure that we partner with individuals like the county to get more bang for our buck.
Which is also why part of the process was for us to send a letter out at the end of last year to all the local government units, which includes the townships, the city, counties, various groups, just to make sure that everybody's aware of what we're working on and what, like I said, what we can do as a team to protect.
Good deal. Is there a certain
high-risk activity or something that you're looking for in those areas, generally?
I think it's a couple of things. And again, the Katie Scott, correct me if I see anything correct here. One is, we like to keep track of any other wells, not just ours, but any wells that might be on private property. And if possible, we like to try to cap those whenever we can. I would have to think that anything like a gas station, as an example, where you have underground storage of a liquid that potentially could damage groundwater, contaminate groundwater, is also something that we would inventory to make sure that we're aware of where things are at. I have usually gas stations and industrial properties are where you're going to find more of the attention for solvents and other materials that we just want to be really careful.
Anything else? You have questions? Katie, thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of the afternoon. I'm going to log off. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Everybody but me was on a show called Back.
Yeah, I apologize for the technology and streaming of it.
And also, enough to follow, but it's worse than
It was, yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. The next bit of business here, Keith, is the electric system study introduction. And I'm assuming this gentleman over here is going to step up and speak wonderful things.
Yes, sir. If you recall, in the budget for this year was allocation of funds to do an electric system study. And we got then and ultimately selected EGR to help us look at our system. We do have some assets that are getting to the end of their life, in the interest of preserving the liability and setting us up for potential growth in the future. It was determined that the prudent activity would be that have some people smarter than us come in and take a look at the engineering and see how the system is currently functioning and what we want to do as we look into the future. And so we did hire EGR. This is a multi-month process that we're going to be working on. And we invited Andy to come in today to give a brief introduction of himself and EGR to the commission. And have him give just a quick overview as to what they will be working on as we move forward. And so with that, Andy, would you like to you can come up with the podium?
All right, if I move the podium back a little bit so I can see everybody.
Yeah, the only thing was, this is it's up to the commission. I did put it for the video for the viewers. But,
that's okay.
if you want to grab the microphone, so we can make sure we hear you.
Didn't want to feel like I was talking right on top of everybody.
Yeah, it's just I want to make sure you're in the camera.
Yeah. I don't know if other people would agree with that, but okay. Cover up my face with a mask, that always works, right? So good afternoon. Thanks for having me here today. As Keith mentioned, my name is Andy Coop. I'm with DVR Engineering. And first, thanks for selecting us for the performing electric system study. We appreciate the trust you're putting in with us for completing that, and we look forward to working with you and Keith and Jeremy and the rest of this team on the study and getting the projects that would be identified completed in the future. A little bit about me and our firm. DGR Engineering is headquartered in Rapids, Iowa. We are in the very northwest corner, about 30 minutes from Sioux Falls and 6 miles from the Minnesota border. Laverne is just to the north of us. Been in business for about 69 years now. We do civil survey, water services, and I'm from the electrical power department. I'm a native South Dakota. I'm a jackrabbit. I graduated from there in 2002 from South Dakota State. In February, it will be 17 years from the DGR. So I've been there for a while, currently a project manager in the department. And our firm typically serves clients generally in the Minnesota, Iowa, and South Dakota area. We try and stay in that. We do have a few outside of that, but I would call that mostly our core business, which would also include the municipals that we serve. The municipals are a large part of what we do with EDR. So scope of work for what you hired us to do. So we were hired to perform an electric system study and develop a capital improvements plan for the next 10 years. And what that's going to end in is a deliverable is a book like this. And what is this book? Well, this is the plan. This is the roadmap for the projects that we recommend you complete for the next 10 years. This is an example of another client of ours where we completed the report back in 2018, and now we are just working the plan. That particular plan had 3 phases, and as of right now, we are moving into phase 2. So it's the beauty of having a roadmap is you've already done the legwork on what that looks like, and then you just have to work the plan. Now, sometimes you may have a new customer come to town or a load expansion that may throw a curveball when you're in the middle of the project, but generally you can easily adapt to those and overcome and accommodate that customer. What are the goals for the study? Well, the first thing we want to do is look at your existing system and identify any deficiencies. We do that through some computer modeling software analysis. We do that through some interviews with Keith and Jeremy and the rest of the staff. Once we have those deficiencies identified, we then apply what we call load growth to your electrical system for the next 10 years. We project that out, and then how do those deficiencies look like at the end of the 10 years now that we have more load? Is the system going to perform worse? What does it look like? What improvements do we need to do above and beyond to accommodate that load growth in the next 10 years? So the second part of that is providing the solutions, and those solutions are used to correct those deficiencies. Those will be outlined in the report, and that's what we would consider part of the plan. Whether that's phased out in 3 phases, 1 or 2, it kind of all depends on some funding mechanisms, impact rates, that kind of thing. And ultimately, we end up with the road plan. Roadmap, excuse me. So after that work is done and you've identified the projects that you want to complete, the next step that I'm sure everyone is going to ask of you is, well, how in the world do we pay for that? And we've already had some initial conversations with Keith about what a rate study might look like, but that is certainly part of the overall umbrella as to how you get projects done by looking at funding either through revenue bonds, cash reserves, and ultimately, is there or is there not an impact to rates, and what would that look like? So that's further down the road, but certainly something that is on our radar. So the next steps for me, we've already started some work in the office and started developing the model of your electric system based on a GIS export that we received and are working on. Once we get some of that initial legwork done, we'll come up and meet with Keith, Jeremy, and staff to kind of formally kick off the project, get some of our questions answered, start to identify some of those deficiencies. And we think that meeting will happen in the next, I would say 1 to 2 months in there, depending on how well the model building goes. Once that is done, you're probably looking at 6 to 9 months for study completion. And that really depends just on how the data flows between us and input and corrections, typical review process, that kind of thing. My next step today is I'm going to meet with Jeremy and do a mini tour, high-level tour of your power plant substation facility, your north substation and your south substation. And we plan to work hand in hand with Keith and crew over the next few months to get the project done. And you'll be likely seeing me when we get closer to finishing the study. I'll be here to give you a formal presentation of what that roadmap looks like. So with that in mind, that's kind of all I have for a brief introduction. Thanks for having me here today. Any questions I can answer?
I don't know enough yet to ask the right questions, but I think as we go along, we'll look forward to hearing reports on things you've identified and where we can start making improvements in the system. We're all looking forward to kind of lay out some kind of coursework, say here's where we're going. Got a growing community, and as we try to grow, we want to make sure that some of that growth we're anticipating can be properly prepared for us. Look forward to hearing more.
Absolutely, that sounds great.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Andy, so to start with, just so I get an idea on the planning process, do you use the tool from the city or from counties to look at the growth plate? Or they their expansion is?
We do, and we'll mostly work that plan through Keith. And so we'll take any comprehensive planning studies such as, I don't know if you have a development corporation here in town that has identified certain areas for growth that are potentially documented in a city comprehensive planning tool. We will take those areas and work with Keith to assign electrical load to those parcels. So it could be a brand new green space and say we allocate 2 megawatts to it for a new industrial customer. We will use that as part of our planning for the 10-year projection to say, yes, we can accommodate that 2 megawatts, or no, we can't accommodate it with the existing system. Absolutely, that is part of the process.
So Jules, if I may, how old is our comprehensive plan?
Oh, boy.
I can maybe answer that.
What was that?
Yeah, Danny.
I can maybe answer that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm the chair of the planning commission, so we've been working on that ongoing. I don't think we really stopped working on that. That comes up.
They always used to call it a 10-year.
Yeah, so we just, I believe we just completed one, so I mean, it's pretty fresh and it's comprehensive. It's like,
How far out do you, how do you come up with your?
well, it looks outside into the townships, and then obviously Keith would look at what's possible for acquisition of that, because it's not all necessarily right. So yeah, we've got a really good up-to-date plan, and that'll be great.
I think you can, that's readily available to you.
Yeah, yeah,
The latest that we have.
yeah, I think it's online.
Where I was going with that, everyone, is that if when I was growing up, I lived here all my life, but they always did a 10-year, and that's what it was always called, and that's what I've always heard. So I'm glad to hear that you are updating that on a regular basis, not just, okay, now we're in year 9 of the 10.
Yeah, no, it goes out beyond the city limits.
Yeah.
And when some people first saw it, really, you can't tell me what to do. I don't know what to say. No, it's a big plan, it's a big.
I might add, Sherburne County has one too.
Yeah.
And Mille Lacs County, they all have one, so it covers the whole city and the whole region here.
And that would be a nice double, triple check.
Right, I think it's good because it'll cover, beyond the city limits and our possible service territory, which is already into some of the townships now. So yeah, it's a great tool.
So with that information all current, then it should give you also, you're working with current fresh data from all the entities.
Yes, absolutely. Load growth is one of the components we look at on how it stresses your existing system, right?
Glad to hear that.
Yep. The other side of the coin is just aging infrastructure in general. Sometimes you'll end up with some equipment such as a substation transformer or overhead distribution or transmission line that's just run its course and ready to be replaced. So that's kind of the other side of the coin, if you will, that we use alongside load growth to promote that. So I'll be sure to check the website and try to get a copy of that and work with Keith and crew to make sure we're on the same page with where those areas would be identified. as far as our planning on the 10-year interval, our recommendation generally is to review these reports either if there's a significant load growth over and above what we've identified in the report, to go ahead and relook at the system, or every 5 years if you're just working the plan. So.
Yeah, I believe that if my memory's right, we have just updated that in 2020, early 2020. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Thank you.
I'd like to move forward to the rest of the agenda here. The simple reports are included in the packets. I think we'll, if anybody has any questions on those, this would be a good time to ask Keith. Otherwise, I'd like to move on to financial reports. Anything crucial that we need to be aware of on those, Keith, please take it from there.
The only thing I'll mention with the financial reports is you will see notation at the bottom of them saying that these are before year-end adjustments, so they're unaudited numbers. It's just to give you an idea of where we're at, but the audit does typically adjust the numbers in a very minute way. So they are before those year-end adjustments. Otherwise, it's the same monthly reports that we've been including in the package for a while now.
Good deal, thank you. And updates. Electric department.
Yeah, so in the generation plant, we had exercised units last Wednesday. We're to keep those fresh and make sure that they're operating appropriately. We did have Ziegler and Caterpillar in town on the 14th to remove the intercoolers. As I had mentioned before, we did notice some contaminants in one of the oil chambers. And after Ziegler removed the intercoolers and conducted a visual inspection, they did notice the rusted section on the front intercooler it was part of the source of the contamination. Caterpillar then took both intercoolers to their lab to conduct pressure testing, and both the front and the back intercooler failed their pressure test. As a result of that, Cat and Ziegler were pretty confident that was the source of our coolant leak. They had ordered new intercoolers, and those were installed last Friday. We've been doing some test runs this week to verify operations, and samples will be taken after the run today to look to see if there are still contaminants within the oil chambers. So we think we've made some good progress on number 7 to get that back online and operating properly. Also, I think I mentioned this before as well. Princeton Public Utilities was asked for, and we're honored to be the host for MMUA's Generation School, April 20th through the 22nd. We are coordinating with MMUA staff to accommodate the folks that will be in town to learn more about generator operation. And I actually helped put MMUA in contact with Connexus. So as part of that, they're going to be doing a tour of the solar farm out by Prairie Restorations as well. So they're going to, they always make a nice event out of it for the operators when they're in town. And so we're happy to host. On the distribution side, we did have one of our linemen attend the MMUA 2021 Electrical Distribution Design Workshop, which was held virtually. We held our in-person instruction for our MMUA JTS training, which is Job Training and Safety. That was on the 25th. And we are also holding our, we ended up having our standard MMUA safety training virtually when was that? Friday. It was Friday that we had virtual training for the MMUA activities. And we're continuing on with other education efforts throughout the month. MMUA has been good at sending us materials just to make sure that we're always kept abreast of proper operation and proper safety protocols. On the water department side, major focus continues to be on AMI conversions, just as is with the electric, and I'll go into that in more detail later on in the agenda. Department of Health was in town on Monday for routine testing of our water system. Samples were taken and sent back to the lab for that activity. We also are running into a bit of a situation where our skid loader is nearing the end of its useful life, and it's been recommended to us to look at selling that and getting a new skid loader. So we're currently compiling a couple of quotes and looking at what a potential trade-in and purchase might be. I will report back to the commission on those findings. It wasn't something that we anticipated, but we've got ourselves in a bit of a situation where we do need to address it. That is what I have for the department updates. So next up would be the City of Princeton update. I guess if I may, Mr. Chair, I would just like to start off, but before, because we typically hand that off to the liaison, Jules, so you're on deck. But I would like to mention that the Princeton Public Utility staff in the last several weeks have been having ongoing meetings with city staff on various development project proposals. Those meetings have gone very well. I felt that they were positive and constructive, and everybody was listening and considerate of other people. And I just wanted to say that it's been great. It's been great these last couple of months. We've been working very closely with Stephanie, with Mary Lou on those. We even had a development meeting, just within the last couple of days on some other projects. So there's a lot of activity going on, and it'll be interesting to see where it all goes. But it's been a very positive experience, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the city. I mean, it's been great. The staff's been wonderful to work with, and I'm really looking forward to what the future holds.
Well, what's up with that?
Yeah, it's no, but seriously, my thanks to the staff. I mean, it's been very, very productive.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. You know, that's the biggest item on our plate right now with the city is to get a city administrator board. After I'm done here, we're conducting some initial interviews with a number of candidates today and tomorrow, and then we will be bringing that to the full city council for finalists, as soon as we can. And we had meetings. Our meeting with the staff and department heads was just along the line you said, where we were asking them to kind of pick up the ball here and help us out, and they really are. They're doing a tremendous job. It'd be like your job right now, Commission, if you didn't have Mr. Butcher before you to guide you through all of this. It's difficult, and with the developments that are going on right now, it's a challenge, and the department heads have really picked it up, and we really appreciate that, and we really do. We've got the first 3 departments. The apartment complex is moving forward. We have the Sherburne part of this, the Sherburne development there. There's so many things. Without having a person in charge, we have to really rely on our staff, and we are. So we're moving forward, and without haste, though, we don't want to do it hastily. We want to get the right person aboard, that's going to just the person that's going to be the right fit for our community, and we want to make sure that happens. By all means, that it does. Some other things going on. We have a new mayor, and he's jumping right in there. He's set some priorities, doing a good job. He really is. And one of the priorities we have as a city right now is the simulcast. We have that tower that's erected by AT&T, and that's going to be turned over to the city for communications for first responders to be able to communicate that there may be an incident even in this building right here where you can't even talk on portable radio to get out, and that will rectify that. So the mayor and I, we just recently had a meeting with Congressman Stauber, and that's hopefully he can help us all come up with some money. You know, it's always a big thing to accomplish something like that, but that would be a county, even Sherburne County is involved in that. But if we can accomplish that, that's like the number one priority. I shouldn't say number one, but a priority that the city has right now is to get that accomplished, is that simulcast, so that the medical, fire, and police can communicate. Remember back in, it goes back to 911, 9/11, 2001, and the big thing was that fire, police, and everybody else could communicate. That it was all going to be corrected. Still can't. You can't talk. You got to be able to talk. And that was how I expressed myself to Congressman Stauber. You know, he's an ex-law enforcement. He's Duluth, former police officer for many years up there, so he totally understands. And hopefully he can take it further for us and get us some funding for that and get that accomplished. That's a big thing. Crosswind runway we talked about for the airport, that the city has been wanting to remove that from the plan, and he may help us with that too. I can't, there's many things going on. So, maybe I can ask some direct questions too if you have any. If I can answer them, I sure will.
A question for you, Jules.
Yeah.
What are you seeing with the applicants for the administration job from prior to Bob? You see a lot of, are the people that were the second choice, third choice, fourth choice that are applying again, or did they find other jobs? Did you see any comebacks?
I saw one in particular that reapplied. You know, there's been probably, I don't know, 30 applicants that I know for certain one is back applying. I saw from minimal experience of city administrator experience to some very good experience, and some in between, maybe not so much city administrator, but being an assistant in a certain department in the city, assistant in county, in certain areas like that. But I do believe we have some good candidates.
Do any of these applicants, do they have a personality and can they smile?
I don't know.
You're gonna find out today.
Well, you go right for the tough ones, right off the bat.
You know,
I do.
I know you do, you're great. But if you can have all the knowledge that you want, and if you don't put on a happy, welcoming face to a developer that wants to come into Princeton, and they leave there with.
I got it. And you know something, I was also going to mention, we talked about development and that sort of thing. I've been on the council, this is my 8th year now. You know, I was appointed and then elected, but whatever. This is actually what's going on right now is the first time I've seen development. And the 8 years, and I don't know, 10 years before. So we're talking about bringing this all together, and we're all new at it. I'm new at this. We've got to have people that we can have been through this. I went through this with the park board. The same thing with the park board. As far as park dedication fees. With plotted land now and that sort of thing. We've never done this before. This group of people. So it's like, for some cities it's like very common, but we need to rely on each other and do it right.
It'll be a busy year for you guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, and we want to do it right.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm looking forward to this year. I think it's going to be a good one.
I agree.
Well, I think it is. It really is. And I think, at the beginning I said we're in the same boat. We represent almost the same people, constituents, and that sort of thing. We can move forward. Get things done. There's that word I hate politicians that say we want to get it done, you know, what? But get, you know, we want to accomplish our goals. Do its best. That's kind of the city report right now.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Keith, you want to have a moment for update here?
Yes, in terms of just an overall update of the utility. First quarter of each year is our big regulatory period. We have a lot of reports that we have to file both at the state and at the federal level. So I get pretty buried in on trying to summarize 2020's data. So far, we have submitted 2020 safety data to the APPA. I've submitted the e-reliability data for 2020 to APA. We have completed our MPCA. It's called the DRF2 and the CR-04, which is our air permit requirements, our air permit reports, which are required. So those have been submitted. I have also been notified by the Federal Department of Energy that we are actually qualified to file the short form for our EIA 861 report this year. I'm hoping that that's going to save me a little bit of time in compiling that report. So that's a good thing, and it will help minimize a little bit of the administrative burden associated with that. We have submitted our DER, which is a Distributed Energy Resources Reimbursement Report to SIPA for last year. So they have that information available. That's part of our 2020 cogen and small power production tariff that we'll be going over later as well. So all of that has been submitted. Next up, just to hit on some of the more important ones, our DNR water report, which is called MPARS, is due on February 15th. So I will start working on that next week. And then our DER DG report, which is for distributed generation to the Minnesota Department of Energy Resources, that is due March 1st. So those are my next two big ones. And then after that, it's more, well, there's the state utility annual report and then a lot of the Fed stuff. So like I said, I keep pretty busy in the first quarter of each year, just doing paperwork. On the insurance side, I just want to mention that we do have the League of Minnesota Cities contractor will be on site Tuesday, February 2nd to perform a property appraisal for our property and liability insurance. So that, and Scott Daniels will be working with them to take them around to all of our facilities and giving them information on the assets. On the IT side, I do want to mention that we will be starting the process to update our Yukon server to a 2019 network server. Yukon server is our AMI server to be able to communicate and download data from the new AMI meters. So we want to get that up to 2019 because that will give us some added functionality that we currently don't have because we have an older version. And it'll help us to fully utilize the new AMI system. We have also started work on a Data Alto 3 backup solution. It's to make sure that we continue to be able to preserve our data and information on site. With this new backup solution through CW, we will now have an on-site drive and cloud copy of our material. Restoration would be able to be done from either that local drive or the cloud. Protected servers can ultimately be spun on the data cloud, and the backups will also now be verified daily, which will also provide us with a retention of 3 months on-site as well as 1 year of cloud retention for all data. So that way, you know, when we've got a lot of data that we keep, and especially with all the regulatory stuff, it's just to ensure that our systems are robust and reliable. So we are moving forward on all of that. I'll go through some of the AMI stuff later on, but that is ongoing. And as part of that, we are continuing work on data verification to ensure the integrity of the system. You know, just as a reminder, converting from an AMR system to an AMI system completely changes our process. I mean, it really is a significant internal conversion activity. It's not just replacing a meter, but it's also making sure that we understand our data flows and we have new pieces of the software that we're integrating with to make sure that the data that comes into the Yukon system goes over into Power Manager correctly. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to give us a lot more data analytics, but I think it's going to benefit our customers. So before, our primary process, was based off of an AMR system. So that makes me think of certifying. And we started sprinkling in some AMIs over the last few months. Well, we're now starting to get to the point where AMIs are becoming more the majority of what we have on the system. So we're starting now to transition away from that AMR approach to an AMI approach, with the AMRs being the exception to the rule. And then once everything's fully converted, then we can just put the old AMR stuff to bed and really utilize that new technology. So that process, it is going to take us a while. We'll have the electric stuff done this year, but with our current schedule on the water meters to be converted by 2023, we're going to be in a little bit of this transition period for a few years. And so for that reason, we're paying very close attention to the data, making sure that everything, double checking everything to make sure that this transition goes through smoothly. But that is taking up a considerable time internally to do that. And as part of that, the AMI system is allowing us to develop some new subroutines within Yukon. That's helping us meet our reporting needs. So one of those examples is we do this for the audit, but I also do it for our federal reports, is the measuring of our unbilled consumptions. So think streetlights, that is a big example. We don't necessarily have a meter on every one of those. I take that back. The ones that we're measuring, we don't bill anybody for. We're tracking the consumptions because we want to make sure we understand what our true line losses are. However, there isn't, we've always taken care of the streetlights, and so there's not a bill that goes out for it, but I still track all of that. We're going to be able to use Yukon to do that more automatically than what we've done in the past. It was a pretty manual process before. So that's just one example, but I think it starts to show the strength of the system that we're installing and the way it's going to help reduce some of the administrative burden that we've kind of maybe got a little too accustomed to over the years. There's a better way to do it. But that's been a major activity here the last couple of months. With it being winter between construction seasons, it's a great time for us to do meter conversions. And so the staff has been very busy with that. On the DSM side, the energy efficiency programs, I do just want to mention that our SIPA ESR has been working very closely with plastic products. They're potentially looking at a couple of projects regarding some custom rebates on some new all-electric presses, LED conversions, and a compressed air survey. So I'm expecting that program to continue to be successful and meet all of our statutory guidelines that we need to for that as well. So SIPA's been really good there. There are several external events that I just want to mention to the commission. First one you're all aware of, you're all signed up for the MMUA Legislative Conference, which is scheduled for Wednesday, February 10th. So that's going to be fun. We'll see how that goes.
Did you get that email I sent, Jules? About the MMUA?
When did you send?
Today?
Oh, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm slow on that.
No, it's fine. It's just, it's important because as it states,
I'll look at it. Yeah.
people in the city council and us and different boards and whatnot
Okay.
would be, so maybe put a board out there. If they don't attend, that's up to them.
Yeah.
But if they're involved with utilities or interested in it, it seems like it's going to be a good 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check with Jules and I'll let the rest of the city council and mayor know.
But I think it'd be a great idea.
Oh, I have no idea. Yeah. See, 128. No, I didn't.
I think I sent it to your city.
No, I have nothing.
I'll make sure, I'll coordinate you with the offline, Jules, make sure you get it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I can.
Okay, so so that's coming, so Jules, that is a February 10th, it's a Wednesday, just,
Will
let
he
me know.
need to be registered to get a login or something?
Yeah, and I'll work with them on
Okay.
getting in
Is
that.
that deadline the second, I believe?
That's, yeah, that
That's
sounds
why-
about right,
That's why
yeah,
I'm bringing it up.
yeah,
So
yeah, I will follow up on that right away. As a result of the MWA legislative conference being held on Wednesday, February 10th, SIPA has moved their monthly meeting to Thursday, February 11th, to avoid that conflict, and I will be attending that as well. We have also met with, the Princeton Public Utility staff have met with East Central Energy last Thursday to start discussing service territory issues. That meeting went very well. I'm going to follow up with them. Kind of the next step is really when the city officially annexes the industrial park property. From a conversation I had with Mayor Walker, I believe the public hearing on that is the 25th of February, if I remember correctly. But once that gets officially approved, if I could, let me know, Jules, because once that becomes annexed, then I can start the next step with East Central Energy on territory issues.
East Central covers the area of what I call Jack's Farm out here. West of the airport.
North of the airport,
North of the
it's right up first. We don't have, it's not platted yet. I've seen some preliminary drawings on that, but it does, the city is looking at potentially replatting, but maybe the Aero Business Park parcels
Yes,
along with that.
definitely.
Yeah,
That was the whole purpose of the purchase.
yeah, so, again, once the land becomes officially annexed,
Yes.
then I can start talking to East Central Energy, because absent that, there could be a potential situation if that stuff gets replatted and it crosses multiple service territories. So we would have to, something would have to be addressed, is my point there. But I have had preliminary conversations with East Central, and it was very positive, went very well. It's just, we need to now wait for some official things to happen before we can. Okay.
My point was that this is the area that we're talking about.
Yes.
Is an East Central area, not a Connexus area, which is another.
That's
fish.
correct. Yes.
Okay, good.
And we're at least starting our discussions with the arrangement that we had with East Central Energy when we acquired the Aero Business Park properties as well. And this comes down into typically when utilities transfer service territories, there's a mill rate that is paid to the host utility, and we just need to work out those details. But that's all moving forward as well. And then just should mention that the proposed joint city and PUC meeting has been postponed until early May.
Yeah, I was going to mention that in my city report. The council would prefer that we have a city administrator or board to be able to meet with you, Keith, and have topics joint topics to talk about. And that would be one of the administrators' first things to accomplish. Yeah.
Good plan.
Also want to mention that we are currently going on through our own search, this for an electric superintendent to replace Ryan Grant, who had left last month. I have completed first round interviews, and I'm planning on conducting second round interviews, actually starting next week. Is my plan for that. I'm anticipating that we could have a selection made early to mid-February, and then the start date is going to be determined upon whoever gets selected and what makes sense. So that's continuing to move forward as well. The only other thing that I should mention, we don't have Mr. Henniger here from the Union Times today, but he has given notice. I know he did it at the city council meeting, that he is moving on. So we are going to greatly miss Mr. Henniger. I found him to be fair, thorough, very detailed, really performed at a very high ethical and had good moral standing. And it was just, it was really good to work with him to make sure that the public understood all the stuff that we're doing. So I'm really gonna miss working with him. I'm looking forward to whoever the Union Times hires to replace him, and then working with that person as well. But Tim is a very special individual, and I just wanted to thank him for his service to the community while he was here.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Those are my updates, sir.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the reports that we do annually,
Yes.
is there anyone else that's trained in on those reports?
Kathy assists on some of them. What a lot of it is compiling data from the multiple departments. So getting data from the electric department, getting billing information from the billing staff, and then putting all of that together. Traditionally, it's always been the general manager here that has done that. I guess I'm not quite sure what your answer is.
The reason for my question, I want to address you guys, this is when Connie had put in her notice to retire, and those reports were coming up. I mean, for me as a commissioner at the time, it was kind of a panic. Like, do we have somebody else? Is there enough cross training going on? Do we have someone else to handle some of these things when there's a situation? I guess just the way I think with my own business is, I don't like to be stuck where I can't complete the task, or we couldn't run the generators, or we couldn't, treat the water or something, somebody were to leave. So it just brought, when you were going over the reports, I just remember that kind of panic I had. It's like, oh boy, I know Connie helped, I don't know if we heard her for that, but she did some consulting and stuff.
Were you planning to keep the transition out of here?
Well, no, but,
Okay, good, just.
I mean, there's no saying that somebody couldn't come and make him an offer that,
I get it.
he can't refuse, but, I guess I would, like to see you have, organizational chart where people are, I know Connie did more than her predecessor because she brought her job forward, is what I was told.
Correct.
And, that's.
I will say one of my goals when I started here was to develop a lot of internal tools. In putting these reports together, like I said, we're pulling information from disparate resources to address what the feds in the state want. This is because I'm a computer nerd from way back. I've spent my life doing data analysis through Excel spreadsheets and visual basic programming. And what I've created internally are a lot of, I call them master sheets. So I have an electric master and a water master. And I bring data in from the pumping that we do on the wells, from the generator reports that we conduct. Those all come in, and then what I did is I created tabs, and each tab is a different report. And I've been going through and double checking to make sure everything's coming through. So I'm creating a system in a way that makes it easier for other people to step in. Rather than having to go through the report and say, okay, what's this field? Okay, where did that come from? It's just the way I am. I'm putting in notations saying, okay, for this field, here's what I did. Here, refer back to this cell. And so I'm really trying to work at documenting what I'm doing. I haven't gone so far as to say, okay, I'm gonna give this to Kathy and see, how she does, or Debbie or whoever. But we have made tremendous strides within the last year and a half. So that if, I always called it the hit by the bus scenario. What happens if so-and-so gets hit by the bus? What do you do? We at least have stuff in place that it would be easier for the next person to pick that up and run with it. And I'm also working to create internally, restructuring some of our shared network drives to be kind of a little, at least from my perspective, a little bit more intuitive, so that it's easier to find things. Because the more we digitize stuff, the easier it is to then search and find and move forward. So we have been doing a lot of work internally to try to streamline those processes. And as part of that, I think it makes it easier for others to, if they needed to, in a pinch, to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not an airplane, but, there's a lot of redundancies built into it. But we could potentially have some holes that people can't get water or power. And the reports probably wouldn't affect that, but it's I guess it's just in general, I'd like to have some.
Good point.
So,
Yes.
Moving to ongoing business, you did touch on AMI a little bit. If you want to jump back in there.
I do. Yeah, so we did resume our meter conversions in early January for both the water and electric departments. We've also refined our internal tracking needs. And what that has allowed us to do is field staff can now spend more days conducting installs. We've really streamlined our procedures, and it's allowing us to convert our accounts much quicker than what we were doing before. We initially we had to schedule in a window where we said we're not going to do any installs because we needed the software to catch up with us. But we refined that, so now we're doing installs. Well, the only work day we're not doing installs now is our meter reading day. Whereas before we had about a week where we were saying, we're just going to wait because we don't want to jeopardize the data integrity side of it. So we're making that better and better. So the field staff are just flying through the conversions. What that means is on the electric side, this is not including today, and today they did a whole bunch of apartment buildings. So I know they did one apartment building, they replaced 24 meters in 15 minutes. So I mean, because they're all right there. I mean, it's really easy when it's all in one location. But so far on the electric side, we have converted 59.8% of our electric meters to AMI. And on the water side, we have converted 25.4%. That was as of yesterday.
Water was how much?
25.4. So we got over a quarter of the water that's done as well.
Electric was 59.
59.8. Sir, I can just keep going. So on the EV side, we did have our official launch of the DC fast charger on January 20th. We had Commissioners Hanson and Schwartz were present. We also had Mayor Tom Walker and City Council Liaison Jules Zimmer in attendance. Representing Cobras were Store Director Logan Markshausen and District Manager Francis Audette. So it was a good event. Did post it on social media so that folks could see the new charger, and I believe it's going to be in the paper today as well. So I'll look for that article as well. So we've got that up and running. We still have 2 level 2 chargers that we need to find a home for. So that will be one of our activities this year, is to find a place for those and get those.
So the one at Coborn's is hot and running.
Correct.
And it's been a lineup to get more people in there, or any activity?
It has been active. Yes, I haven't run the numbers. I actually got an email from Zeph, the contractor who was doing it. They said that they've noticed some activity as well. The only issue we still have is the credit card reader isn't working. Zeph has run into a bit of a software bug with that. They're going to reimburse us for the connection fees that we would have charged. So right now, the users are getting it for free. once the credit card reader is up and running, then there will be a fee associated with its use. So that should happen in the next few weeks, I would anticipate. But yes, they had mentioned that they saw that it's being used and there is activity on it. I haven't looked at the final numbers for it. With the L2s, like I said, we're going to try to find a home for those. I am looking forward to working with the new city administrator to see if maybe there's something that we can work together to maybe put it in a city lot, perhaps, or something, Jules. Just when they get on board, that's one of the items I know I'm going to want to just see if they have any thoughts on it, because I think it'd be good for the community.
With the credit card issue,
Yeah.
what's the experience of the customer then when they come up there and it won't take their credit card?
Oh, it's just free. They just plug in and
It
it works.
says that this was on us, or,
I don't know.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at, is what's their experience and what this thing doesn't work.
As far as I know, they just go up and plug in and move on. They don't, it doesn't even ask for a credit card.
Oh,
That's my understanding. So it's just because there are some free systems out there. So people are used to kind of plugging in, and if a little light doesn't go on, and you look at the screen and say, oh yeah, I got it. This was a paid unit. Yes, sir.
Just for clarifying, I did see on social media that someone commented that it's not great. Commented about the cost to the city or the utility for that EV unit. Could you just clarify that, just for anybody that might be?
Oh, sure.
watching this?
Yeah, the comment was, something about how, thanks for spending the taxpayer money on that. No taxpayer money was spent on that project. The DC fast charger was actually supplied to us from Zimmer. So we got that for free. We were simply responsible for the installation of the unit. So, it did require us to buy a little mini sub to put there and run some conduit underground, because, some high voltage equipment, so you don't want that sitting out. So we probably spent, when you count the mini sub and some of the other work, it probably was a good $9,000 to $12,000 to put that in. Part of what we're trying to do is there's several things involved with, it is a new technology, and I think it's just growing. So we want to get people used to that. We also, by having that DC fast charger, puts us on the map for a lot of people who, are out driving around. Think of your Tesla owners. It'd be good for them to stop off in this community and, maybe get some neck coverings or, stay in town and walk through the downtown. So I do see it as a bit of a tourist draw in some regards. And like I said, we're going to be charging once the credit card readers are functional as well. So the users will be helping to pay for that. But it is meant to get people more and more used to the technology and not feel that range anxiety, which is what they call it in the industry. I think, from the reason electric utilities are doing things like this is because it shows people that this technology works, lets them try it out, feels more comfortable using it. Ultimately, what happens is if they do enjoy the experience and they buy an electric vehicle, most of your charging occurs at home anyway. Well, those are our customers. And so it's a way for us to help provide for their transportation needs in addition to their lighting and cooling needs as well. So it's a way to promote a technology for a product. I guess it is a good way to think about it. And I think it's just going to keep growing. The L2s, I think there's going to be a question there. Again, we got the L2s for free from SIPA. We just need to install them. Given how that's a little bit of a different structure, we may or may not charge for those. The DC fast charger, the value in it is how fast it is. And that's what people are paying for. They want to charge and go. With the L2s, it's a little bit more, it doesn't have the same value, the same benefit to the user. So we'll have to think about that when the time comes. But yeah, no taxpayer money was used. It was a collaboration with SIPA, and then, like I said, at the event, it was really a partnership with Coburn's to to promote the community and show that, you know, Princeton is watching the technology and is trying to prepare ourselves for the future that is coming.
Do you have something for?
Well, I think what I take to heart is, and everything that you said, I think we knew, but I'm concerned about the person on social media that is not understanding. And I think that's maybe should need to be addressed. So if don't we pay something for social media watchdog or
No.
you have something? Didn't we have something like that?
Yeah,
We had some social media activity in terms of planning posts, which we were doing last fall. We discontinued that at the end of the year.
Okay, I didn't know it was discontinued, but I guess regardless, can't we just politely correct that misunderstanding that this person or people have, that it didn't cost taxpayers anything, that it's through our working relationship with SIMPA, they gave it to us, and working with Cobrans, they gave us, you know, so it was a team effort and we accomplished this and no taxpayer money was spent. I think that kind of an answer should address that type of question or concern.
Well, I guess one of the questions would be, is that more appropriate to come from the utility or from the commission?
It's not a brat fight, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I mean, you know, the city was the one being accused, but maybe a little bit of more information. Maybe the newspaper article will cover that. I'm not sure, but I just the more information, the better. I think we can, you know, as a city, as a utility, you know, it's okay to toot our own horn a little bit. I think it's a great thing.
So let me ask this question then, just so that I'm clear. There are a lot of governments who often take the position, and I'm not even sure what the city's policy is anymore on social media, as to how much do you view social media accounts through excuse me, government agencies as information only, in which case you don't want to engage, you know, to a certain extent. You know, there's a balance, I think, that governments have wrestled with to say, do you respond to all of it? Do you respond to none of it? Or if it's somewhere in between, how do you determine what an appropriate level of response is? Jules, I don't know if you have any thoughts on what the city's doing in terms of social media engagement.
Stephanie is really on top of that, but social media, if you start to engage everything that comes in on social media, it's endless. And I think you have to pick and choose your battles. You know, people are always commenting about one thing or another, and if you engage, it just go.
Yeah, you don't want to back and forth.
You gotta be careful. You gotta pick. That's why I say you gotta pick and choose. You know, to tell you the truth, I think Stephanie is on top of our social media outlet and how it's handled, and it's very careful with what gets on there, and who responds and who's responsible to respond to.
I think there's even some governments that don't even allow comments. They view their site purely as informational, because of their concern of that situation.
It just
and they don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps going.
I think that should be a policy.
Exactly.
But I was thinking maybe more put some promoting that we public partners and everything on our website. Maybe it's already in there.
My hope was, I was kind of waiting to see what the Union Times article it says, and then, you know, we can probably share that and provide kind of a complete story to people who are.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see an explanatory, kind of a declaratory kind of a piece out there that says, yes, this is the, you maybe saw it in Union Times, and this was a real partnership between Coburn's, the city of Princeton, the PUC, and everybody that got together. And Simba played a key part in this, and this is what they donated, and we just made it happen. And not leave it open for comments and questions. If they have a question, then there's a, email us here. But I don't want to get in but they said, and then somebody has to respond from the office or somewhere else. And, well, that's an exact, that, because like Jules said, that doesn't go on forever. And it's not particularly helpful. But having our own piece out there is a plus. And, people can react to it or not. But I think we have to have a well formulated approach and piece that we can put in there. And I think that's a task all in and of itself, but somebody has to be the wordsmith, put that stuff together and make it presentable. And it should be on our Facebook page and on our website, everywhere we have exposure.
Yeah, Tim did mention at the ribbon cutting for the GCFC that he didn't have anything in last week because he's going to compile all this stuff for this week. So hopefully if he was privy to that relationship, that maybe it's already in there. Mm-hmm. That would be my hope.
Yeah. But yeah, if not, I can put in there something like, tag tag over and say, the great. But did I hear that the commission is interested in perhaps not allowing comments on our Facebook page and keep it as purely informational? I mean, people can still share it and then comment on their own Facebook page.
Right, that would be my vote. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with the last city administration.
Okay.
That's all the stuff that went on in the election that, it's just, it doesn't do anything when go this way. So.
Well, I think it is a reasonable expectation of governments to say that we're not silencing anybody. If you have something you want to talk about, please join us. Come on in, let's have a dialogue so that we can understand what your concern is. We can provide you with information as to what's really going on.
Well, and all the folks that are reading those things on Facebook or whatever media they're using are reading it there. They have accounts, they can post their own. I see Public Utilities Commission just spent $1 jillion so that two guys can charge their car. Whatever they want to come up with. But I think it's important and it's incumbent on us to be clear about what was happening, what was spent, and what the goal was. I mean, when this whole thing came up a year ago about should we have one of these, here's the opportunity, should we do it? I think we were unanimous in saying, this is a cool thing. More and more people are going to buy electric vehicles, whether they're Chevy Volts or they're Tesla XYZs, whatever they are. They're buying them and using them. And I'm even seeing them on the highway. All of a sudden, the guy goes to buy a Tesla like a rocket ship. But so it is happening. And I don't think we want to be at the point where we say, oh, shoot, we should have done that when we had the opportunity. I think it's good for us to be involved. I think it's great for the city. It's a marker on a couple of apps out there that says, Princeton's got one of these. You can stop and go grocery shopping for 20 minutes. And interestingly enough, we're about an hour north of the Twin Cities. So it's a nice drive. People heading for the lake, stop off, get a little sushi, and off they go. And this is a good thing. The L2 things are an entirely different thing. Guy's going to spend the day in town, plug it in, go down, have lunch, do a little shopping, visit neighbors, whatever. So we have to think about how that works. But I think it's incumbent on us to make it clear in our presence, on our social media, this is what we're doing and why. And yeah, it costs some money. But the taxpayers got a bonus out of this because they got a fast charge deal for nothing. Yeah, that's a plus. That's a plus for the commission because that's going to generate revenue. It's a plus for the city that we have those kinds of resources available. It's pluses all. Getting into a back and forth about it is not in anybody's best interest at this point. Anything else? Any feel free to jump in here.
No, I kind of did already. You know, I never get into it on social. It just keeps going and going, and Reggie feels they're right. And many times don't listen to facts or reasons.
Okay. EVs, we've discussed it. There's something else you want to bring up about this piece? I'll give you a parting shot.
No, that completes it.
Electronic payment fees and deposit policy review.
Yes, yeah, my intention of putting this on here was simply to, follow up on the work session, to include the memo 21-01 in the official meeting minutes, regarding the current, status of our electronic payment fees. The plan is to introduce preliminary findings on a transaction fee process at the next meeting at the end of February, and then a determination of conditions and potential process for the waiver of deposits based on credit score will be underway. That's where I'm at with those two items.
Okay. So basically, we're pushing that to February.
I will have some findings on the transaction fee issue for the February meeting. I followed up with a few external sources to make sure that we understand all the moving parts to that.
Okay, good. New business memos.
Yeah, there excuse me. There are several items that I would like to share with the commission and get and in some cases get approval for. The first is really more informative.
Forgive me, I have to step up for just a second.
Oh, yes, sir. The first memorandum is more informative, 21-02. Each year we need to establish an interest rate that we pay our customers for their deposits that we have, that we keep on hold. That interest rate is determined by the state, and state law requires us to pay this interest rate. For 2021, that interest rate is 0.1%. So when we do our interest calculations for 2021, that will be the rate that we use. I also included in the memo the rate history, just so that the commission is aware of what we had done in the past. Again, this is all established based on current U.S. Treasury securities, so the number is what it is. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward with using the state's interest rate of 0.1% on all customer deposits. Any questions on?
So last year was 1.5 and now it's 0.1.
Correct. And it was determined by Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Commerce based on the yields for 1 year U.S. states or U.S. Treasury securities, and they looked at the week of November 16th for what those interest rates were, and then determined and notified us that when you round it to the nearest 0.1%, that the appropriate number for 2021 is 0.1%. And then in the memo at the end, I did include state statutes, just so you have that for your reference. Staff recommends establishing the 2021 interest rate at 0.1%.
Just a side question, Dan, do you know what you paid on your deposit held?
No.
We're at 1%. By law, and maybe it's a different resolution, but in the book that we've used, it has the dates from here to here, and it would equal that.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the same rule.
Yeah, again, in the memo at the end, you'll see Minnesota statute 325E dash, or .02, customer deposits. And it says any customer deposit required before commencement of service by a privately or publicly owned water, gas, telephone, cable television, electric light, heat, or power company shall be subject to the following. And so this is the rules that we follow. And it does say in paragraph B in the middle, by December 15th of each year, the Commissioner of Commerce shall announce the rate of interest that must be paid on all deposits held during all or parts of the subsequent year. The company may, at its option, pay the interest rate at intervals it chooses, but at least annually by direct payment or as a credit on the bills. We will pay out, if there's ever a final bill, and so we pay interest at that time. Otherwise, for customers that are with us the full year, we pay it at the end of the year. So we just not really know calculate what that number is. But that's the statute that we've been abiding by.
I guess if it's industry specific or category specific.
So every year you do pay out a percentage of the deposits held?
Yes.
So every month.
No, every year.
Every year.
Well, I mean, I sign off on deposit refunds every month.
That's for final bills. So if a customer leaves our utility, then we will pay it at that time. But if we have a customer from January 1 to December 31st, the interest is paid at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah, got it.
So Kathy, do you recall, do we need a motion for that? No, it's just informative? Yep. Okay.
You have to just pay that date, then. Yeah.
Any other questions on our deposit interest rates? Okay, the next memorandum, 21-03, this again is another annual requirement. This is our cogeneration and small power producer tariff annual update. Under state statute, the governing body of the utility is required to update their cogeneration tariff with current average retail utility energy rates. So I work with Zimmer to put this together. The memorandum, there's a couple parts to it. There's the actual tariff itself. And then there is Schedule 1, which shows the calculation of our average retail utility energy rate for each class. And then Schedule 4, which shows the average incremental energy cost and annual avoided capacity cost from Southern Miscellaneous Power Agency, SIMPA. And so we're also required to report on any customer-owned generation that was on the system and that resulted in generation as well as any net exports and things like that. So that is going to be included in our annual qualifying facilities or QF report. You'll see that table below, which has the 3 customers as well as the 2020 impacts on the system. And then there's a couple attachments. So you'll see Schedule 1 on the next page, which goes through each service and identifies clearly what our retail utility energy rate is for each of those classes. Schedule 4, which shows the average incremental cost by seasonality, so summer, winter, and annual, along with the estimated marginal energy costs and capacity costs. And then after that is the actual tariff itself. So this would be effective as of January 1st, 2021. It's the same as last year because we did not have any rate changes for this year. But it does restate the rates that a customer could qualify for should they co-generate or produce some of their own power. As part of our statutory obligation, we are required to also post a notice on the adoption and update of this tariff, which I have ready to go as well based on these numbers. So for this, I do need a motion stating that the commission accepts the cogeneration small power production tariff for 2021.
Let's entertain a motion for memo 2103 for 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Here's the motion made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Almost three. Passes. Section C.
Thank you. Memorandum 21-04. I'm bringing this to the commission's attention because we are continuing to deal with the effects of COVID on our community. And it's continuing to disrupt the local economy and affecting businesses and residents. We have worked very hard to try to reach out to customers during this difficult time, to ensure that we continue to address accounts that are in arrears and find ways to address those accounts that have been unresponsive to our outreach or who have not kept current with their established payment plan. I'm sorry, I wanted to check something real quick. Customer arrears continues to be an ongoing issue for us. And it's actually an ongoing issue even during good times. It's just part of the industry. But all Minnesota utilities are seeing significant increases in customer arrears, both in terms of number of customers and the total amounts due from the COVID-19 impact and the various orders implemented by the governor. And so the constantly changing problem, and PPU is working hard to reach out to our customers to address this increased arrears. To help kind of put some of this in context, I did provide in the memo a history for October, November, and December in terms of the number of notices that we've sent out, the amount of money that is in arrears, the amount of payment plans that we have established, as well as the payment plan amounts that we have for folks and the number of door hangers that we have been doing. And as you see, as you get down to the bottom right corner and we get into December of 2020, the arrears number is significantly higher than what we've experienced historically. And we're trying to get as many of those people on payment plans as possible. As of January 8th, I did also include status of past due amounts in the next table. So you will see for those customers that are 2 months or more behind, the number of customers in that group and the total amount of arrears. So this is looking at everything for 90 days plus. In addition, on January 6th, our customer service representative, Cindy, and myself sat in on a SIMPA-sponsored conference call with other SIMPA members to specifically talk about these disconnection issues and what folks are doing to try to address that. Based on that conversation, we determined, we're suggesting that the following disconnection policy is something that could be implemented for the remainder of the COVID-19 pandemic. We would pledge to continue to follow the cold weather rule, which is Minnesota Statute 216B.097, for the duration of the pandemic, which means that we will continue to follow it even after April 15th, 2021, which is when the cold weather rule will typically expire. We will continue to reach out to customers to work with and establish payment plans to address arrears. For those customers that have not established a payment plan with utility or delinquent on an existing plan, we are actually proposing to start implementing limiters rather than a full disconnect, again, because of COVID and because of some direction that the state has made publicly to look at placing load limiters, well, really I should say time limiters on meters during the cold weather rule months, which would be October 15th through April 15th. In essence, what we could do is we can potentially set up a system where they would have 2 hours on, 2 hours off, just enough to disrupt the usage, again, try to get the attention of some of those folks that have just been unresponsive to date. And unfortunately, you can run into situations sometimes where that's the only way to get their attention. And so a limiting device would be not a full disconnect, understanding, it's a tough time, but at least let them know that we need to talk to them, is the goal. And it's also to get us through the cold weather. I mean, we don't like shutting people off when it's below zero. We really don't want to do that. We don't want to risk health. We don't want to risk frozen pipes or anything like that. And so a cycling is a good in between step, is the thought. Once April 15th has come, we could implement a full disconnection at that point. We would still follow the cold weather rule, which has certain recommendations in terms of making sure that we handle the notifications properly, that we've reached out to them, that we've set up a payment plan if we can, rather than just a full disconnection without much notice. So in particular, if you look back at the table of the arrears, I am most concerned with, those folks who are going on 6+ months of arrears. Again, all utilities have been put between a rock and a hard place on this issue. And I know, I hear the same thing with landlords, with the non-eviction policies that have been put in place. It's the same for them as well. And so it's been tough on everybody, but we need to find a way to address some of these, some of the more extreme cases, I guess, it is what I'm trying to reference. I want to say the vast majority of our customers have been wonderful. I mean, and even, even some of those going through tough times, we've been able to work with and set up agreements and move forward with it. And it's been great. It's just, we do have a couple of stragglers that I'm growing increasingly concerned with. When you see arrears on a single residential account that's over $1,000, I tend to get a little concerned, not just from a utility perspective, but from the account holder's perspective. I mean, that's a lot of, that's a significant amount. And it's going to be tough to dig themselves out of that. And the more that we can do now, in the best way that we can, I think will serve us well. So what I'm asking for is the Commission's input on this as to whether this seems to be a reasonable approach. Like I said, it was based off of what we heard from our colleagues throughout the SIPA community as to what they have been doing as well, because we've all been dealing with the same issue. And with that, I really like some direction.
Let me just ask about the limiters, a couple of things. Number one, is that something that can be done remotely? I mean,
yes, there's, without going too far into the weeds, there's two ways we can do it. One is we can put an old-fashioned limiter on it, which is just programmed. And it'll just do it automatically until we take it off. The second is with the new AMI meters, we should be able to do that. We have a lot more control and do it from the office. And we can actually set that up. There might be a couple of ways, and actually there's a couple of things I want to test before we would implement this. Typically, we would do our cutoffs around February 18th. That would be our plan next month. So I would like to have the limiters in place before then, so that we can go through this process.
part of my concern on that is having staff people go out, have confrontations with landowners.
Right, yes, initially, what, we would have to go out there to put on the equipment. It would not be implemented at that time. You know, we would target, like I said, some of the more extreme cases. And then when the time comes, then we can just go out. If it's a manual, if it's a old-fashioned one, we can go out and flip a switch, basically. And then it'll start and they'll be gone before it cycles through. Or if it's an AMI, we're doing it all straight from the office.
The other question I have is, and maybe you kind of hinted at this, some of our SIMPA colleagues are already using these limiters?
Yes, there is a mixed bag. There are some simple community members who are not doing anything. There are some that are implementing, that are doing limiters, just like this proposal is. There are some that are doing full discounts. And so, I mean, all three of those options are on the table for the commission. I was trying to find kind of that middle ground.
So the folks that are using the limiters, have they reported any kind of success?
Yeah, that tends to get the attention of folks. Yeah. You know, I've heard stories of, you know, utilities scheduling an outage right in the middle of the first quarter of the Super Bowl. You know, once you do something like that.
That's cold, man.
So there's sometimes there's a bit of a sign, the timing of it, to make sure you get there.
I'm just concerned that, you know, we have this 5 and 6 months where we've got almost $20,000 out there floating around. That if we haven't gotten a payment plan or something for those folks, you know, one of the things that's, you know, if you're stuck down in a hole, one of the first rules is to quit digging. But these guys are continuing to dig because they're rolling up bills and bills and bills. And I think we have to, my own opinion, I guess this is an opinion fest here, but I think we have to do something to get their attention for our sakes and for theirs, quite frankly.
Yeah. I should also mention too that the thought was we would implement the limiters during the business hours. So once it happens, they can call us and we can address it right away. The thought was we wouldn't necessarily do it in the middle of the night or over the weekend because again, we couldn't respond to it until Monday morning.
Good point. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. That's a question, Mr. Butcher. So I just want to clarify, these customers have refused to set up a payment plan?
I can't say that because there might be some that have come in and said that they would do a payment plan, but then not have followed through.
So they either flat out refused or they've set one up and didn't follow through?
I would say it's more that they have been unresponsive to our outreach, and if they have set up a plan, have not kept current.
I guess, so is there anybody on this list that would, if we were to do the limiter, that has been communicating on a regular basis?
No.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify who.
At least when you say communicating on a regular basis, I guess I'm looking at it more as making a payment on a regular basis. We have had a couple of people set up a payment plan and then not do anything. Then we contact them and they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, really no problem. Can we set up another one?"
Is there other programs available through like Lakes and Pines or?
We constantly direct them to Lakes and Pines, to county programs, to all of that.
Because Lakes and Pines, has anybody talked to Lakes and Pines if they are sending money out?
They are.
They are. Okay.
Yeah, and in some cases, there are folks who either just don't apply. We've tried to encourage them to apply, and they just haven't. In some cases, they may have been denied because they make too much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Ford.
When I look at this, I see two different charts. I see from 6 to 9, you got 10 people. And then if you go from 5 to 2, the big numbers start hitting. So I kind of split that in two different categories, even though they're all in the same blender. I think before 3 moves to 4 and 4 moves to 8 and so on, and all of a sudden we're looking at big numbers down there.
Yeah.
First of all, is this just residential or is it everybody?
There might be a couple of businesses in there.
I'm assuming small businesses. Okay, so can't we do this limiter thing now? Because we're not cutting the power, but the 2-hour thing from 6 to 9, those 10 people, and see the reaction. And it's not going to take long, as you stated, but that's gonna help us to keep the 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to the 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, if it doesn't work on those bottom 10, then we're gonna have a bigger problem.
Mhm.
But that gives us a trial basis on what the reaction is.
Yeah, that was my thought when I said that would go after the more egregious accounts. So yeah, the kind of the 6 spots.
You know, when I start doing the math between these things and whatnot, that to me, well, you've got like $620 per the 79. You know, that's what it comes down to. But when you only have a single customer that's 1380 in the rears, obviously there's no attempt to be even inside. I think that we should implement that right away for those bottom 10. And who knows, maybe you want to throw one in on number 5 to see how those 10 react. You know, I don't know the hardship, I don't know the reasons, but if they're making too much money that they can't get money from Lakes and Pines, well, then sell your toy or something and pay your bill. That's my opinion, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair. Sure. So if there was some businesses, because, I mean, I don't know if they have access to the same kind of resources, you know, that a resident would have, I guess. I'm not sure about that.
Well, we have shared with businesses information from, you know, both Sherburne and Mille Lacs County had a program out. There was a state program that we shared. We actually had our staff call many of these, especially the businesses, to let them know when we see business programs that are available, so that they are aware of it and hopefully pursue that on their own. So the businesses, I got it. I think the businesses are all in the top part of this, you know, in that if there are, I just don't remember off the top of my head, you're looking at that 2-month range. Or the ones at the very end, I gotta say are almost, I think they're all residential. I can't think of any businesses.
I just don't, you know, someone who gets kind of falls through the cracks of all these safety nets that the government has put in place to help people during COVID. If someone fell through the cracks, I don't want to shut the power out because they didn't have an opportunity to a resource that.
Right. And to be clear, the intention isn't to put this on here until they're paid in full. We just want to get them in the pipeline and get them on a path to pay it. So I guess my intention was not to be doing all or nothing kind of thing. It's more to get their attention so they come in and just something. Let's start knocking this down.
So my recommendation would be to pursue that.
The limiters?
The limiters, yeah.
You know, I get, just looking at it with all the different varieties that we have, I think the limiter thing is kind of a good compromise and do nothing, and which I think puts some people in a situation where they're just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. And the other extreme is we're just going to go April 15th to cut off. And so the limiter thing seems to be, to me, a nice way to, okay, we're serious about this. You need to do something, come in or do something. So I would, if you need a motion for that effect, I think we could probably cook one up. Otherwise, if you're looking for direction, I would say we've got 2 out of the 3 so far. Mr. Schwartz, any thoughts?
Well, I think I shared my thoughts. I think I'd like to see it from 6 to 9, and I would even like to see number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 be on the limiter. Take one of those big numbers and institute, bring it in.
My recommendation is I would like to be very judicious in how we use these because of the governor's mandates, because of the whole public perception because of how COVID is impacting local economies. We're really going to focus on the unresponsive customers. So to me, it's a little bit more of what we want to do is address those particularly problematic customers, in which we can fully document where we reached out to, how we haven't made any progress. Because if a complaint is filed with the AG's office, which has happened in other communities, I want to be able to say, here's what we did, and really pick out like I said, the most egregious ones. And that's why I was going to focus on.
So you don't necessarily want to draw a line, you want to be able to handpick basically, which is the safer way to do it, because
Right.
you didn't even respond. This is the action that we took.
Right. So,
Because someone in between, like number 8, if they're really trying, but they just,
yes.
okay, all right.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. That's a more humane way, but the people that are purposely, don't care.
Yeah.
If you know these people, I don't. You
Yeah.
get to see it. You
Yeah.
get to see it, right? I don't. But
Yes.
if those people are there, I have no problem as you as the manager to manage and move forward with that.
Yes.
So my question at this point, you're getting, I think, a clear directive. If you need a motion, we can do that, but I think what is clear from my standpoint is that the commissioners would like you to go with the plan that's been proposed here by your recommendation.
Okay.
And march forward.
Okay. I think that's good enough.
It'll be interesting to hear the results going forward.
Yes, sir.
New business D, the Tom Bowden Scholarship.
Yes, this is another annual event for us, memorandum 21-05. Every year, the commission does make a scholarship available to a graduating high school senior from, I should say, Princeton High School. The use of background, this is actually a program that was created by the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association. It is called the Tom Bowden Memorial Scholarship Program. MMUA administers it. They actually offer $5,000 each year to a student who plans to attend a post-secondary education institution. And that scholarship fund is split into several awards, $2,000, $1,500, $1,500 awards. In addition, Princeton Public Utilities in the past has offered a $500 scholarship to the local winning entry that gets submitted to MMUA. So what MMUA does is they have the scholarship program, and they ask each of their members to submit one entry. So each member does their own kind of local contest. There is an essay required, which the theme is municipal utilities good for all of us. We would collect those essays. The commission would review those, select a winner, which we would then forward on to the statewide MMUA competition. But for the local winner that is selected, that's where we have offered a $500 scholarship for them. So at least they get something in case they don't win one of the big state prizes. So yeah, the entries would be judged by this commission. And a winner would be selected at the April 28th regular PUC meeting. Those awards would then be presented to the winner at the Princeton High School Awards Night, assuming that happens, which is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, May 12th at 7 p.m. We would therefore have a deadline of submitting essays to the utility by noon on April 2nd. And we typically work with the school district as well, so that their staff are aware of it and get that out to the seniors so they know that they can apply for it. There is information available on our website. I'll put it on our website, on MMUA's website, as well as APPA's website, which is publicpower.org. So staff recommendations is to approve the 2021 PPU scholarship offering for this year.
Just a clarification, if we find Princeton Public School student that we award $500 to, we forward that on to MMUA,
Yes.
then they're in the running for the 2015. So potentially there's $2,500 out there for a scholar of of some merit.
Correct.
Cool. Do you need a motion or a directive?
I do need a motion.
So I will,
So second, I have a movement. No, that's probably not the right. Have a motion. And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And that, I think we have a wrap.
just Dan, I hear that you may not be here. for the next one.
Oh, yeah, I won't be here, but I could zoom in if you want. If you really want me to, I can zoom in, but, otherwise. if it's
My
okay.
concern is there's a real possibility that I may not be here.
Oh, okay.
So that could be, it depends what happens on the 17th. I have a closing that day, and if it happens, then I probably have to be here.
Okay.
But I could zoom in, I would just need to know, set that up. How that was.
Just FYI, I don't know, but
Okay.
it could be a possibility.
Give me just a second here.
I won't physically be here, but I can zoom in. See any problem with it.
So right now we're scheduled for a meeting on the 24th.
Right.
You're gonna be somewhere else. Is it, would the 17th offer any help?
I can't make it on the 17th.
You can't make it up.
Isn't that what it's scheduled for? No. It's scheduled for 20, or the 24th?
Correct. 24.
No, I mean, that would, 17th, you can make it, you said, or you can't?
No, you can't make it.
I have a closing on the 17th, so I can't then. I don't know where I'm gonna be on the 24th, but if the 17th happens, I'm gone.
Anyway,
Would you be gone that week or just that day?
Right now, it's, and if I'm gone, I can probably still Zoom.
Okay.
I just don't know yet.
Okay.
Because if that closing happens,
so, but the 24th, you're okay? Or no, you're gone. So I'm the only one here. I'll make good decisions for you.
I was gonna say we could try either the 23rd or 25th. If that would work for you.
You won't be here the 16th either.
I'm trying to give myself a little bit of time to put together.
Cold weather.
can we just stay in communication, you know, and see how this,
Yes.
you know, leave it for the 24th, and if we can Zoom, great. If only one can Zoom, you still have one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's just do that. We'll leave it.
We'll do.
What?
I just wanted you to be aware.
Thank you. That's good. Before we close, I would like to,
Agenda be emailed to me then, so, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've been getting the agenda email, haven't you?
I think so. Is it just going through
Should, right, Kathy? You should have gotten it. Yeah, you should have a full agenda packet in your email.
yeah, I got one, so I know that part.
Oh, okay, yeah, you did.
I would like to, before we close, thank my colleagues for your vote of confidence. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. I think we've got a great team this year, Keith, and I'm leaving looking forward to working with Jules. So, I think it should be a good year. All right. I would entertain at this point a motion for adjournment.
Maybe
So moved, and have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried 3-0.